Did you know you can actually use video games to reprogram your relationship with failure? Because that's what I did. I used to have this completely debilitating fear of failure and rejection that would make it so that I couldn't really do a lot of the important things that I needed to do. If there was any chance that I could fail at it, and it was even slightly important, and that failure might mean something bad, I was pretty much incapable of doing it. I had the experience that a lot of other people did. You try to do something big and scary and hard and whatever, and your mind would completely wipe you and make you forget what you were doing, or you'd lose motivation to the point where you'd have to go to sleep or lay down or some other shit like that. And it didn't really work because I was trying to build a business. I had things that I wanted to do in my life. And so this ability that my mind had to wipe me and make me forget what I was doing and shut me down and try to get me to go to sleep whenever I wanted to accomplish something wasn't really going to work with the goals that I had in mind. So I had to find a way around this. If you've had experiences like this, people with ADHD experience this a lot, right? Where you try to do something scary, you try to do something big, you might fail, there's threats, whatever, and your mind just shuts you the fuck down. This is a very common experience a lot of people have. And so I actually used video games to deprogram this experience for me. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I did it. What I would do is I would essentially respect my capacity for the day. I would know that each day I would only have a few hours where I could focus on forward movement, building the things that I wanted to build and doing meaningful shit that would move my life forward, right? I would get to a certain point in the day where it's like, okay, that's your capacity. Your mind is incapable of doing more, so you need to reroute your energy and do something so that you can have more energy for tomorrow. And that's what I would do. I would work each day, I would coach my clients, put the content out, do whatever I needed to do. And then once I hit my limit, I would switch and do my shadow work so that I could expand my capacity to hold those fears in relationship with failure, rejection, whatever else, so that I could bring more energy to the next day. And I would do this over and over and over again for years, slowly stretching my capacity until I could have a little bit more energy each day and a little bit more ability to take bigger risks and talk about potentially more complex or sensitive topics without having to worry so much about fear. However, this was kind of slow going. And so I had to find other things to kind of supplement the process. I would do martial arts, I would go to the gym, and I had to build my capacity with those things as well. But then it's even after the gym, even after all that sort of stuff, my mind would shut down. And so I needed something productive I could do to help me work with that capacity without going too far into the scary zone where my brain would start to shut me down. And this is where video games would come in, because there is a certain type of video game that is punishingly difficult, right? These Souls-like games, where specifically there is a right way to do it. Each little character has a way that they attack, and if you don't learn the way that they attack and find a way to deal with it, then you're just gonna die over and over and over again. You can't fake your way through it. There's no difficulty meter. There's nothing you can do. You either are focused, present, and attentive, paying attention to what you're doing and winning, or you're distracted and worried about failure and other kinds of things are going through your mind and you die. And that's just kind of how it is. So I was like, great, this seems like a perfect thing to use to train my mind to be focused and present and able to do what I needed to do. Because the thing is, I experienced trauma early on where I got really afraid of the world. My dad died when I was 6, and so it told me that the world is scary and chaotic and dangerous and can take things away from me at a moment's notice, and there's not a goddamn thing I can do about it. So needless to say, as a 6-year-old, that freaked me out pretty badly. I didn't really want to be a part of the world because it seemed like this big, scary, dangerous thing to me. And if I failed or if I got rejected, that would be more evidence that the world is terrible and that I shouldn't be a part of it. So it was really, really hard for me to engage myself long-term, like I said, in anything that was meaningful for me. It was just terrifying. However, video games provided this really dope opportunity for me to do something that was objectively difficult that not everybody can do. In fact, not even a huge amount of people can do. But I knew that if I just stay focused and pay attention, I would eventually win. So it was the perfect thing. What I would do is I would sit there and play these really, really difficult games. I had to find one that I liked, that I actually wanted to get good at. So Neo 2 was the one that did that for me. I fucking love that game. And so what I would do is I would just play this really difficult game over and over and over again. And as you know, if you ever played one, you can die in some of the most frustrating, dumb, stupid possible ways imaginable. And that would happen to me. And then my mind would get flooded with everything that I thought that meant. You're a piece of shit. You don't deserve to be in the world, so you shouldn't be. And oh, you suck. You're going to fail all the time. So you should just not even try. And I was just like, okay, cool, interesting points. Thanks for that, I guess. And so I would just kind of listen to these different parts of myself and hold space for them and let them know that it's hey, actually, all that's not true. You're actually, no matter how many times I fail, no matter what the fuck happens, you're all going to be loved. You're all going to be taken care of. the world isn't nearly as dangerous or scary as you think it is because now I'm here to protect you from it, which is something I didn't have as a kid. And so I would kind of take that into my experience of playing these games, and I would fail. And then each time I failed, instead of just like trying to fucking like force my way through it, I would take a little bit of time and actually be there with the parts of myself that were afraid of failure. Because the point wasn't really to beat the game, even though I wanted to do it. The point was to change my relationship to failure so that instead of having it flood my mind with all these essentially self-abusive thoughts and emotions and ideas, failure could instead start to be something that triggered self-love and compassion and understanding, and even the ability to learn from those different parts of myself that were being so mean to me. And I'll tell you what I mean by telling you a little brief story. So I was going to give a talk I did give a talk at a festival called Lucidity. And I've told the story before, so you may know it. But it was kind of scary. It was outside of my comfort zone. It was the first talk I've ever given at a festival. It was the first time I ever really presented myself as an authority to a bunch of people I didn't know. So it was pretty outside of my comfort zone. And the part of me that didn't want to engage with the world was working pretty hard to get me not to. But instead of just white knuckling my way through it, I actually stopped and listened to this part of me and listen to why it was telling me I was going to fuck up. And it actually gave me good advice, right? It was like, hey, you're not speaking from the heart. You don't have the audience in mind, and you don't have a clear intent. And I was like, oh shit, those are all really good points. If I listen to someone else give a talk like that, I would call it a bad talk. So I listened to it and I started doing those things. I started speaking from the heart with a clear intent and with the audience in mind. And then as a result, all of my fear turns to excitement, and I was really excited to give the talk. And the same thing happens here, right? Like I'm playing this video game and I'm listening to all the parts of myself that are telling me how I'm fucking this up and why I'm fucking this up. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, I understand. It's like, you're afraid of failure, so you get in there and you make me do a stupid mistake so that I fail, so that I'll stop trying, because you believe failure is inevitable. It's like, great, wonderful, amazing. It's like, yeah, failure is actually inevitable. However, the way that we relate to that fact can be a little bit different. Just the fact that failure is inevitable doesn't mean that I need to shy away from anything that could potentially make me fail. The fact that failure is inevitable means that I should learn to plan for it. It means that I should accept it. It means that I should be okay with it and be ready and willing to learn from it. And as I adopted this attitude, suddenly I could be more focused on the game. Suddenly I could pay more attention to what these like big scary bosses were doing and what I needed to do as a result. I got more present, which with what I told you about my dad in the past, like me being present and focused and attentive on something was something I had a really hard time doing. Like I was tested into these like gifted classes for special kids or whatever right before my dad died. And then after he died, I failed every grade from 4th grade to 11th. I only graduated because I went to one of those continuation schools that lets you like show up drunk and high and they don't care what you do as long as you go. And so the only reason I graduated high school is because people didn't care that I was drunk and high all the time. My dad dying really fucked with my ability to be focused and present and attentive and pay attention to what's ahead of me and actually do it. I just became blindly rebellious. But these games gave me an entry point to something that I knew was possible. If I failed, it didn't have any real world implications, so it wasn't that scary. So I could just fail over and over and over again. And as I did, I was still in my home. I was still in my safe little bubble where as all these self-abusive thoughts could come up, I could just love them. And I could listen to them and start taking care of them. And as a result, I could be more focused and I would start to win. And the next thing I know, I'd beat the fucking game. And then I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? I'm like, how is this possible? I used to not even be able to get past the first level on games like these because my mind would just like mess me up and make it impossible. But now I can beat them and now I like it and now it's fun. It's like, what the fuck has happened here? And as I'm doing this, I'm also integrating this confidence into all the other areas in my life, making it so that I feel safe taking risks in my work and talking about more sensitive topics or things that like I haven't fully fleshed out. I can own that I haven't fully fleshed them out and be open to criticism, be open to failure, be open to rejection, and know that because I did this practice, that when I do fail or if I do get rejected, that all that's going to come as a result is more love, more understanding, more compassion, more wholeness. So it stopped being something for me to be afraid of. And as I started to enjoy it in the game, I started to enjoy it in my real life. It's like, oh, I said that wrong. Cool. Like, oh, I said something that pissed somebody off. Cool. And now that I'm building this Discord group and I'm getting to talk to people, and sometimes people get upset about the things that I say, it's like we're able to clean it up really easy because I don't care about failure anymore. I don't care about rejection anymore. And playing these games was a really, really big part of how I was able to kind of deprogram my relationship to failure and turn it into something that wasn't so scary, that I didn't need to abuse myself about. It just became this inevitable part of playing the game and this inevitable part of life. There's another big thing about these games is that, like, when you're learning how to fight a boss, you go into it knowing you're gonna die the first few times. You don't really even try to win the first couple times. You just try to learn the lay of the land so that while you do try to understand what's happening, then you can execute properly. And so it's really beautiful to go in there knowing you're gonna lose, letting it be okay, but trying to learn through the failure. And that can really train some important muscles that you can use in the rest of your life. So I also do wanna cap this off by saying that video games are not a replacement for life, right? Like, I did this to supplement the work that I was doing everywhere else in life. I was trying to build a business that was meaningful and purposeful to me, that brought me alive. I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to learn martial arts. I wanted to have these fulfilling relationships. And I was leaning into those as much as I could. This strategy using games is not meant to take you away from building a meaningful life. And it's important to know that because video games are really fucking good at distracting you from living a meaningful life. They can completely dysregulate your dopamine output because all these fake accomplishments in the game trick your brain into making you think that you're making real accomplishments and have you feel good about stuff that you really shouldn't be feeling good about. And it's not that beating a really good game shouldn't make you feel good. It's just that, like, it shouldn't make you feel as good as other things should, right? You shouldn't get the same level of dopamine, but your brain doesn't know that, so it gives you what it gives you. So I don't recommend this being like the only thing that you do. This should be in service of something else. Find a project, find a business or something you want to build, something that is bigger than you, that is meaningful and purposeful and genuinely brings you alive. Put as much energy into that as you possibly can each and every day. And then once you really genuinely feel like your energy is spent for the day and you know that pushing forward is just going to be counterproductive, then you can start using some of these other supplementary practices. It's like I said, it's real easy to have video games kind of be like your replacement for real life accomplishment and real life adventure and real life growth, because they simulate growth. Because you level up your character and blah, 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 and you learn all these skills, and it simulates achievement. It simulates adventure. It simulates strength. And if you're not paying attention, those simulations can start to feel like they're enough, especially if you're afraid to dig into the other stuff. So watch out for that trap. Put the real world ahead of all this. But then once you put everything you can into the real world and you're genuinely spent, then this is an awesome little training exercise that you can do to help shift your relationship to failure, to help build your emotional capacity around it so that you have more energy for the next day to bring into the things that are actually meaningful for you. So it's not meant to be a replacement for life. It's meant to be something that enhances your experience of living and enables you to take the lessons that you learn from playing this game into your real life. You know, because I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine in Tokyo. We were in the middle of like the nerd central of Tokyo, where it's just like an entire district of the city dedicated to anime and video games and all this sort of shit. And we both actually found it to be a little depressing because we were looking around and we were like, wow, this is what it looks like when you use media as a replacement for life. It creates this really sad kind of quiet desperation where your soul is crying out for something, but you're only giving it a simulated version. And it's not how we're meant to live, and it's not right. However, what you can also do is you can take the lessons that you learn from these things and implement them into your real life to make them much more valuable. And that's where the real value is, in being able to create things, being able to connect with others, being able to create a meaningful life, but then have a cool little like virtual training simulation that you can run in order to help you grow and stay sustainable and change your relationships to these things. So this is how I use video games to completely shift my relationship to failure. It has done me an incredible service. I feel so much better as a result. I'm able to take on bigger risks. I'm able to just have way more fun in my life, be much more myself, care a whole hell of a lot less about what other people think. And now I'm good at this thing that is fun to me. So amazing, wonderful. And just as a little announcement, I just want to let you know, I have started a free Discord group. I have rooms for everything you could need to know if you want to learn shadow integration. I have a tremendous community in there already. It's only 2 weeks, but there have been some amazing people in there offering support, getting support, changing their lives already, and it's fucking incredible. It's completely free. If you want a link to it, it's going to be in the description below. And we've got rooms for everything. It doesn't matter what you're working on, what you're dealing with. We even have rooms to discuss video games and anime. So whatever it is you're interested in, come on over, meet the community. You're going to love it. But if you have any more questions about this, let me know. I'll be happy to go deeper into anything. But I'm Chris Roscoe. I love you. I'll see you next time.